Welcome everyone to the Retro Horror Academy. My name is Daniel Richardson, and tonight we're going to be looking at the year in horror of 1953. So we got a little bit more going on this year. We actually, instead of the one movie that we had last year, we got 5 movies to rate and review this year, and then we also have 5. Well, I guess we got 8 or 7. Sorry. Inductees into the Horror Hall of Fame, although 3 of them are going in together. We'll get to it, don't worry about that. But yes, we got a class of horror inductees going into the Hall of Fame. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about the new trend in horror this year. It would be brief. It would kind of come and go quickly, but I'm talking about 3D horror begins. It would kind of hit hard, and not just in horror. I mean, 3D just in general. But the novelty would quickly wear off. And I know, from what I can gather, just in the history of movie cinema, anyways, it seemed like we had a big bash in the 50s when it was invented, but then it seemed like in the 80s there was a bit of a 3D boom, and then later on in the 2000s, which I actually got to live through that one. And it's like no matter what, I have never been a big fan of the 3D gimmick. I think if you got like a amusement, like I know like at Disney World I went to a 3D thing there, but it wasn't like a movie. It was just like you're literally just watching different images pop up. It's literally just for that. You're going to enjoy crazy images in 3D, and I think that's where 3D should be enjoyed. As far as trying to intertwine it with actual movie going experience, I don't know. I don't like it. I saw Avatar in 3D. I saw Final Destination 5 in 3D, and there's been a couple other ones. Green Hornet was one of them, and to me, it really just takes away from it. It never looks that great. It's not like you're immersed in a world of whatever. It's barely certain things would come off the screen, but most of it just comes off a little bit. It's all about the depth, and I'm like, I don't need this. Just give me 2D. I'm happy with 2D. So anyways, but that's where we're heading right now in the world of horror. So. Let's get into our Horror Hall of Fame inducting class of 1953. And not gonna lie, there's a bit of a theme, a lot of one-hit wonders in this thing, but it's a lot of people who, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, they kind of got their prestige outside the genre. But you got a chance to, bring them in, you take it. So, with that in mind, our very first horror inductee into the Hall of Fame, Humphrey Bogart. An American actor known as Bogey. He is an icon of Hollywood cinema. Mostly played gangsters in his career. Blew up with films like High Sierra and The Maltese Falcon. He has literally been, it's been said he has set the standard for what a detective is in film noir. Of course, he would be nominated for an Oscar for Casablanca, where he starred alongside Ingrid Bergman and fellow Horror Hall of Famer Peter Lorre. He would go on to marry Lauren Bacall, another starlet actress, icon of the silver screen, and would also be known for films such as Key Largo, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Caine Mutiny, and The African Queen, which he would actually win his Academy Award for. We know him on this show, though, as the star of The Return of Dr. X. Yes, he didn't even like horror. He kind of put his nose up at it, bastard. But you get a chance to add some prestige to your Hall of Fame. You do it. You get Humphrey Bogart, you take Humphrey Bogart. So, Mr. Bogart, Bogey, get on in here. Up next, we have Bob Hope. Did not know about this. He's a British-born actor, comedian, and producer. He was known for his Road 2 movies with Bing Crosby, and he would actually go on to host the Academy Awards a record 19 times, which I believe he still holds that today. Known for his quick one-liners, he was actually born in London, but he would move to America at a very young age, and he actually became a boxer before he would move on to entertainment. On this show, we know him for The Cat and the Canary and Ghost Breakers. Again, he kind of, I'm not going to say he established horror comedy, because that's been around a little bit before him, but he definitely was the highest headliner of the horror comedies at the time, and kind of set a standard, I would say. So just for that alone, Bob Hope, get on in here. Our third inductee Basil Rathbone, South African actor, but he became famous in Britain. I did not know that. Shakespearean actor, but he was also known for horror films. Usually played a suave villain. Of course, he's going to always be best known for Sherlock Holmes, obviously. Also a big actor on Broadway, would go on to be nominated for 2 Oscars, and has his own little Hollywood Walk of Fame star. So there you have it. Some things that we didn't cover on here, which I'm really sad we missed a lot of these. But he did an episode of Lights Out, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, The Spider Woman, 2 episodes of Suspense, and Sherlock Holmes and The Voice of Terror. But on this show, we know him for The Son of Frankenstein and The Black Cat. Again, just another guy, he just always had this air of prestige around him. And he carried that with him, even through these horror films, if you will. Another guy who, made it known he did not like the genre. But you know what? We loved you in it, buddy. So get on in here. All right, number 4, we got 3 people going in together. First time we've done this here on the Horror Hall of Fame. I am talking about the Ritz Brothers, an American family comedy performance group. And they were Al, Jimmy, and Harry Ritz. We know on this show for being in The Gorilla. They definitely predate Abbott and Costello. Sorry, getting my comedy teams mixed up here. They predate Abbott and Costello by over a decade in their foray into horror comedy. But again, they did it, and I feel like if I'm not mistaken, I think they're the first team to do it. Again, they're not as popular as the Marx Brothers or Abbott Costello or whatever, but you know what? They definitely got their spot in the Horror Hall of Fame. So congratulations, Rich Brothers, get on in here. And our final inductee into the class of 1953, Todd Slaughter, British actor, known for playing maniacs in horror versions of Victorian melodramas. Some things we didn't catch with him was the short film A Ghost for Sale. He also did The Face in the Window and Strangler's Morgue. But on this show, we know him as the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. This guy was huge for his time. Like, he was the British boogeyman of cinema during his run. And I'm kind of sad that, some of his stuff has kind of gone undetected by the Retro Horror Academy. Of course, we're not going to rectify it. We keep moving forward. But, we definitely missed out on some of this stuff. But hopefully we kind of rectified it by putting him into the Horror Hall of Fame because he definitely deserves it. So, quick recap. Humphrey Bogart, Bob Hope, Basil Rathbone, the Ritz Brothers, and Todd Slaughter are all inductees into the Horror Hall of Fame. Gentlemen, go ahead and take your seat with the greats. So, we're now getting into our top 5 horror films of 1953. We're going to start things off with number 5, The Neanderthal Man. Basically, this professor who's an expert in all things prehistoric, he creates a serum that basically turns a cat into a saber-toothed tiger and can turn a man into a Neanderthal man. So, some quick little side notes here before we get into the review. Apparently, the tiger that they had on set kept spitting out the fake tusk. So what they did was they had to, and this is so ridiculous, they basically had a tiger head, tiger skin rug, and they just did a close-up of that with the tusk, put in, and you could tell it looks so bad. And I noticed it when I was watching this, like every time they do like wide shots of the tiger, or not even wide shots, like close-up, like tiger, there was no tusk. And then on the close-up, you did just, it's clearly fake. I didn't realize it was like literally part of a rug, but they did a fake close-up of the head, and you're just like, oh wow, yeah. Guess they didn't really have a real saber-tooth tiger, Anyways, I read, one of the things that apparently, back in the day they had these press booklets. They still do, I think, for the most part, because I worked at the theater in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and they'd give you, the theater managers these promotion ideas, how to promote certain movies or whatever. But of course, today it's a different ball game because TV, internet, commercials, like the promotion's already done. You don't need any extra thing to kind of get people into the theater, But they still, had these kind of carny-like ideas. And what I read about Neanderthal Man was apparently their big idea was, they had several, but like the one that really caught my eye was to make like fake big feet that lead, from the street into the lobby. And I was like, that's so fucking hokey, but, I don't know if it worked well for him or not, but I remember, working at the theater, the only one that, because I would try to employ some of these too, because I always kind of had a soft spot for these old 1950s theater. Like it comes to mind, like William Castle was like a big man about doing like these different little programs and just different promotional gags to try to get people in to see the movie. And so I always had a soft spot for that, and I would always try to do as much as I could. But again, I work for a chain. In fact, there's not a whole lot of independent theaters out there today. Most of them, you're part of a chain. You kind of have to go by a certain guideline, and they don't really go out of the way to promote extra things. But as far as promotion goes, is they got the movie on the sign outside, and then they got the posters, and that's it. But I remember, and this movie was so generic and just, to my knowledge, it didn't really do anything. But the 2005 or 2006 movie, Man of the Year, with Robin Williams, I remember when that came out, and I don't know if you guys know about that movie, but basically it's about a comedic, political commentator, like a Bill Maher, type guy. And basically he decides to run for president, and he wins. And, he said, stars Robin Williams. Like I said, I never watched it. It just wasn't my thing. I'm not a big fan of Robin Williams. I know a lot of people is. I just never was. But anyways, one of the ideas for that movie, to promote that movie, was make fake political flyers, like you're promoting like him running for president, but then have it come check it out type thing. And I remember I did that and posted flyers all over town. And no joke, the movie did very well at our theater that weekend. Now, I'm not saying the flyers had anything to do with it, but I just remember like telling my manager and like the assistant manager, or not the assistant manager, supervisor at the time. I told them both like, this is what I did. And then that night they were like, dude, like it may have worked because like a lot of people were watching. And I'm just like, that's crazy. But like I said, I don't know if it was the flyers or not. But again, I just like the idea, that back in 1953, they're making these giant big feet that are leading into the lobby, and people are like, wait a minute, what are these big feet? Let's follow. Oh, it goes into this. What movie's the big guy watching? Oh, he's watching the Neanderthal Man? Yeah, let's go watch it. Yeah. Anyways, so this movie got bad to no reviews. I've never read that phrase before, bad to no reviews, but apparently what it was, for the most part, a lot of these, even these like smaller B-rated movies would get, reviews in like big publications, Variety and, New York Post or whatever, newspapers. This one didn't. Like, it just went under the radar big time. And the ones that did cover it gave it really bad reviews. It was compared unfavorably to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for the most part, and a lot of complaints were kind of lobbied at the fake-looking mask that the Neanderthal man wore. Yeah, they didn't. They should have went on with some makeup or something. They didn't even have to do much. I can't imagine it'd take a lot to make a guy look like a caveman, but yeah, it did look pretty bad. So a phrase that was used in this movie, if I'm pronouncing this right, the Piltdown Man. So there's a scene where the professor's showing like the evolution of man, from Cro-Magnon man, to Neanderthal man, all the way up to, modern man. But one of the little stages there was called the Piltdown Man. But apparently, the year this movie came out, that was actually discovered to be a hoax. Like, it was a fake. Like, I didn't do the research. I didn't look into like what was fake about it. But either way, that was disproven. So that was so I don't know if this movie came out before that was disproven, or if it came out afterwards and they're just like, fuck it, roll the dice, let's just do it. But either way, yeah, that was that's not a real scientific thing. And finally, the movie lead in this thing, Robert Shane, he actually got top billing for the first time in his career in a film. However, they spelt his name wrong. He has a Y, but it's Y in Shane, and they didn't put the Y in it. So there you have it. So what did I think about this movie? Honestly, I thought it was okay, and I'm being very generous. It was mostly boring, but here's the thing: like when I think of generic B-rated sci-fi mad scientists creating, and I'm gonna say ape, even though it's Neanderthal man, but like ape man type movies, I think of movies like this. Like as I'm watching, I'm like, this is just the definition, the epitome of just generic B-grade sci-fi horror films. And yeah, and I'm not going to throw shade. It looked good. The story was nothing different. I'm not going to sit there and criticize the story when we've seen these stories play out a million times before. But I think that's also it's undoing. It's very generic. Yes, we've never seen the caveman, but come on, how many times have we seen like we're going to inject this into somebody and turn them into this thing? It's we've done it to death at this point. Mad science is, it's already, but we're getting into the atomic age of horror, so I'm sure we're going to be getting a lot more of these. Anyways, the acting's okay across the board. The directing's fine. aside from the the fake looking mask and the saber-tooth tiger debacle and all that stuff. But beyond that, I mean, there's nothing bad about this movie, but there's nothing really good either. It really just kind of falls in the middle for me, and I'm happy where it's at. Like honestly, this is one of the few times where I think I agree with the Academy pretty much on everything ranking wise with this. So yeah, this definitely belongs at the bottom of the list here. It has a 4.4 on IMDb, and yeah, I'll agree with that. So yeah, that was the Neanderthal Man. So moving on, we are now going to number 4, and this movie was The Maze. Basically, the Scottish guy, he gets engaged to this girl, and I don't know where she's from. They're Britain, maybe. Maybe they're from America. I don't remember. Either way, I think they are from. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, but he's engaged to this girl. But then he turns out he gets some urgent news from his home, or from his uncle's home in Scotland. So he flies over there. And when he gets over there, he quickly calls up the fiance and breaks off the engagement. So she's upset. So her and her aunt go over, and when they get there, they discover this dude has aged horribly quick in the short time he's been gone. And then there's some weird stuff going on in the hedge maze just outside the castle there. So this movie was shot in 3D. Now I keep reading that it wasn't the first 3D movie. However, it was like the first major studio 3D movie. However, I can't find anything to contradict me on this one. So this may be the first 3D horror film, if I'm not mistaken. So anybody outside the Retro Horror Academy, if you know for sure if this is or isn't, let us know. We're dying to know. But either way, yeah, this thing was shot in 3D. The movie got mixed reviews, with a lot of people just attacking the ending, which is very ridiculous. And so, yeah, I can definitely understand that. Turns out this was actually based on a true legend. Not the ending, obviously, not the Frogman. But no, apparently there was, supposedly, over in Scotland or whatever, this guy who basically he was, he owned this castle, but he had some kind of weird, deformity or skin thing, and he remained hidden from the public, and so he had people run his castle and run his house for him, but he never came out. He stayed shut up in the attic the whole time. So yeah, there's a little bit of truth behind this possibly. This was based on a book, but the illustrations in that book was done by surrealist artist Salvador Dali. So yeah, what I think about this movie, honestly, I like this movie quite a bit. There's not much horror into it. It's definitely more drama. And there's a bit of a mystery going on. You're trying to figure out what's going on exactly. I thought it was going to be a little bit more supernatural than it winds up being. Because again, they never really explain why he aged. I guess it's just assumed once he had to take on responsibility of taking care of his uncle, who's a frogman, that aged him, I guess. I don't know. They don't, again, whole time I kept thinking there's something with the hedge maze, and it really isn't. The only reason that people were freaking out about the hedge maze was they let the uncle hop around there at night. But it's well, why do you care if they're out there during the day? Who gives a shit? Either way, yeah. At the end, when it's revealed that it's not, I say frogman. He's not even a frogman. He's just a giant frog. It's just a hopping frog, and I'm just it's so fucking hokey that again, it's gonna elicit a laugh from you when you watch this thing. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's yeah, the buildup wasn't bad, and I think it would have just been some kind of weird disease face looking thing. That would have been a bit of a letdown, obviously, but the fact that they just turned you could have been a wolf, a creature, bat, I don't know, you could have been anything, but they went with frog, and that puzzles me. So anyways, yeah, this thing has a 5.8 on IMDb. Yeah, like I said, it's good up until the end, and then the ending definitely, sinks it for me. But either way, number 4 was The Maze. So we're moving on now to number 3, and the winner of our Bronze Skull Award, I'm talking about Ghost of Saga Mansion. This woman, her son ends up dying, and basically it seems like it's a corrupt government kind of conspiracy, and so when she can't really prove, and she's not getting the answer she wants, she ends up killing herself. However, a cat ghost comes back and starts haunting the village, namely the ones who she thinks is responsible for her son's death. So this is a Japanese film, and the thing is, it has never been dubbed in English or shown in the U.S. So in the history of the Retro Horror Academy, we have come across 3 films that, for whatever reason, we could never find a American copy of. The Macabre Trunk was one of them, and I don't remember what the first one was. It was one of the silent movies, so it wasn't too big of a deal. Because, we ran into that too, where we come across some silent movies that didn't have any titles, and you just got to piece it together. The one we came across, I can't remember. I wish I could remember the name of the movie now, but it was like a Italian short film or silent movie. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, we didn't have the subtitles of that. But anyway, so but what you do is, like, on YouTube, they have a translator that can generate the subtitles for you. And I remember it wasn't perfect for the Macabre Trunk, but here it was way worse, because there was just a few moments of, like, conversation where it wasn't picking up anything. It was just nothing. And then there would be moments of, like, clearly the translation's getting fucked up. Like, at one point someone said something about a smartphone, and you're just like, okay, what the fuck. Now, with that said, I was able to pretty much, I read the little plot synopsis of it. You're able to kind of figure out what's going on. I will come off slightly racist here, and that's okay. I'll do a racism right here. There were some times where everyone just looked alike to me. I'm sorry, it's black and white, and they're all Asian. They were all dressed the same. I couldn't differentiate them from different hair color tones or whatever. It was literally just, no, just Asian dudes. And so, yeah, it was kind of hard sometimes to figure out, who was who exactly, especially with some of the women. However, I feel like there's enough of it that you can kind of get by on that you don't really need it. You know the plot. And then from what little bit I was gathering from some of the translation coming through, you were able to kind of piece the rest of it together as well. So with that said, this actually wasn't a bad movie. I think it looks really good. It has a lot of creepy imagery when they start hallucinating, seeing, like, the ghosts come back to haunt them. At one point you see the guy's severed head just laying on a table talking to him or whatever. A lot of times, he's going through the room, and I don't know, the scenes of, like, people freaking out, like when the guy starts to lose his mind and he's seeing the ghost of who he killed, and he starts swinging on him, but it turns out it's just, like, the girls in the tea house, and he killed like 2 or 3 of them in a row, and you're like, holy shit, like, this dude's, like, going crazy. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very solid movie. The only thing, the ending kind of left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, because in the end, again, from what I gathered from what little bit of the translation that was coming through, it's like the guy just admits, like, oh yeah, we did kill the guy and we're really sorry, and then the ghost just stops haunting him, and it's like, what? Really? Like, that's fucking bogus. I don't know. It seemed a bit ridiculous, but again, I didn't get a full translation. I really wish this movie would come out, like, released on like American Blu-ray or whatever with American dubs, because I would, or subs, because or dub, either one, I don't give a fuck, because I would like to revisit this at some point in the future. But yeah, you know what? Overall, I thought it was pretty good. It has a 6.8 on IMDb right now, and yeah, that seems about right. I mean, like I said, I comprehended maybe 70% of this thing, and I really liked it. So, anyways, yes, that's Ghost of Saga Mansion. So we're moving on now to number 2, the winner of the Silver Skull Award. I'm talking about The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. So basically, a giant, monster dinosaur is awoken at the North Pole due to some atomic blasting, and yeah, he ends up, carving a path of destruction from the North Pole down to New York City. Special effects in this movie was done by Ray Harryhausen, and it was based on a short story by Ray Bradbury. Got both the Rays on this thing. Obviously, this would go on to inspire, you guessed it, Godzilla. This was actually, at the time, this was the widest and fastest release of a movie, because, like, it came out as, as far as, movie goes, it was a huge hit with the crowd, and it was in high demand. So they kept having to, make more prints, keep, opening more theaters, and I mean, like I said, it was the widest, and it kept expanding. So, the fastest, release, in the history of the cinema at the time. This was praised at the time for special effects, obviously, which Ray Harryhausen would go on. I mean, he's done it before. He did King Kong, if I'm not mistaken, and other film up that point. But yeah, he definitely got shine. The spotlight was definitely on him and his work in this film. This is actually going also to inspire the giant monster movie craze that is about to come. Movies like Them, Godzilla, Attack of the Giant Tarantula. All those awesome movies. Wait, was Attack of the Giant? Maybe it was just called Tarantula. Either way, though, all these giant bug movies that would be coming out, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, this is kind of the, you can all, draw it back to this film right here. Turns out, it's funny how the title came about because apparently the Rays were good friends, Bradbury and Harryhausen. And Harryhausen, I guess that one day, Bradbury's at Harryhausen's house, and he gives Bradbury the script. And so when he's reading the script, he's like, yeah, this is this is very, very similar to the story I wrote, like a couple years back or whatever. And so I guess quickly, afraid they'd get in trouble, they went out. The studio reached out to Ray Bradbury to buy the rights to the script or to the story, and of course instantly changed it. I don't know what the title was initially, but they changed it to Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and gave Ray Bradbury his credit. So it worked out for everybody. There was no dispute or anything beyond that. Apparently, this movie featured two of the most prolific extras at the time. In the scene where they're at the theater watching, the stage performance, behind, our main characters, we got this elderly couple, Franklin Foreman and Bess Flowers. And apparently these two were in a ton of, movies. In fact, Franklin Foreman has over 700 movie and TV credits to his name as an extra. And Bess Flowers, she's actually known as the Queen of extras. She had over 1,000 credits. So yeah, and apparently, I guess a lot I'm not talking big time famous movies of the era. You can, it's like Where's Waldo? You can find these two just hanging out, in several of these movies. So I don't know how many horror movies are going to pop up in, if they haven't already. I don't know, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting little factoid there. This is one of the highest grossing films of 1953. The Arctic Station set in this movie was the same one they used on The Thing from Another World. So, there's that. However, when this thing came out, even though crowds seemed to love it and, made tons of money, it got mixed to bad reviews. For me, I like this movie, but I'll tell you right now, this suffers from a lot of the same issues I have with other monster movies of the era. When I was a kid, I was a big Godzilla fan. I thought I watched a lot of Godzilla movies, though. It turned out I didn't watch as many as I thought. I didn't watch hardly any at all. I think I maybe seen 4 in my lifetime at that point of these older ones. But my biggest thing was always I found them boring until it was time to for the destruction, time for the monster mash through a town. And that only happens once or twice in those movies, so it's a lot of build up and more scientists talking. And I just remember as a kid I was so bored of this shit. And I kind of felt that way watching this movie. And I get why we have to have those scenes. You just can't have nonstop dino rampaging. Although, I'll give it a shot. Who knows? Maybe it would work. But anyways, I remember watching this thing thinking I just want to see this dinosaur. Because, I've seen the trailer for this thing. I've never seen this movie before I watched it now. But I've seen the trailer so many times. And so I know the images. I know what it looks like. I know, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get to New York City. Let's start tearing some shit up. And it takes forever. And like I said, there's a part of me as an adult that realized, okay, you got to have these, build-up scenes. You got to care for these characters. But there's that 10-year-old Daniel is just no, I want to see dino wreckage. Let's get to it. Overall, I like this movie. I thought it was really good. However, I just I don't know. I literally did find myself just kind of going, oh, hurry up, let's get to New York City. I want to get to New York City right now. Let's blow some shit up. Anyways, this thing has a 6.6 on IMDb, a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I'm guessing, I know Rotten Tomatoes fluctuates their score quite a bit, so this couldn't just be contemporary review. This had to be the retro reviews later on. And it has a $5 million at the box office. So there you have it, our Silver Skull winner, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. So that leaves one last movie, our number one horror film of 1953, and the winner of our Golden Skull Award. I am talking about House of Wax. You got two partners. You got the money man and you got the artist, and they run this wax museum. However, the money man is trying to, collect his money now, and he decides to burn down the wax museum with the artist inside. However, the artist survives and comes out looking for revenge. This movie is a remake of a Mystery of the Wax Museum. It stars Vincent Price, and it was 3D. Kind of the ironic thing you always hear about associated with this movie, apparently, was that the director was blinded in one eye. So he could not enjoy the 3D effects. So yeah, he directed a 3D movie without actually being able to see the 3D. Which a lot of people actually said, later on I read, like, they think that kind of worked, though, because they didn't try to go overboard with 3D effects, which I'll disagree to a certain extent. They definitely did on this one. But regardless, they talk about how, like, the fact that he wasn't so hung up on the 3D, that he was actually trying to tell a story as opposed to just showing a 3D spectacle, really kind of benefited the film. And I'll agree with that part of it. So that definitely worked out, and it worked out to its advantage. The studio would go on to pay Bela Lugosi, who was not in the film, mind you. Bela Lugosi was not in this film, but they paid Bela Lugosi to stand outside the theater in a cape, sunglasses, holding a leash for this man in a gorilla suit to promote this movie, even though that would promote his other movie that came out the year before, Bela Lugosi Meets the Brooklyn Gorilla. Yeah, but it's just funny that they're just like, yeah, go ahead and promote this movie. Don't worry about your old movie. Fuck it. This movie's what we want you to promote. And it's like, that's such a weird whatever. But apparently, I don't know. There's a story that, he didn't even see the movie because basically, I don't know, people were laughing at the, joking about how sad, pathetic, I guess it was, that he was doing this, and he just got mad and left. I don't know. I read a couple of conflicting reports, so I don't know how true it is, but either way, I hear he's never even seen the movie and he would, bail. Either way, this movie would also be one of the highest grossing films of the year. However, it got mixed reviews, not just for the movie, but for the 3D effects as well. So clearly the novelty of 3D is already wearing off. This film was a kind of a shot in the arm for actor Vincent Price, because at this point, he was kind of dwindling in his career, but this would give him the boost he needed, and he would always be in high demand after this, especially for horror films. And I could say it probably up till his death, actually. So, I mean, yeah, this movie did wonders for him. Caroline Jones, this is her first movie as well. Or not as well, sorry. This is her first movie. She'd be best known as Morticia Addams in the Addams Family TV series coming out the following decade. I'll be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of her in this movie. I thought her voice was just super fucking annoying. I guess that's the character, because clearly she didn't sound that way in Addams Family, but it's like, I was waiting for her to die in this movie. I did not like her character. And that's not her fault. That's clearly, the acting and, or the writing or whatever, too. But it's like, But anyway, yeah, Caroline Jones gets her break here. Sorry. Oh, yes. Sorry, my handwriting is atrocious sometimes. I apologize for that. I'm trying to read my notes. The fire scene in this movie apparently got really out of control to the point where even Vincent Price was like, nope, and he's legitimately trying to escape the wax museum burning down. However, the director, Andre Toth, something like that, he, being the madman that he was, but knowing, like, shit, these are wax sculptures melting for real, and he wanted to get as many shots as he could because, once again, this fire, which really did, expand and take out half the set, he literally ran in there and put his life at risk to get the shots. And apparently, that's the other thing I left out. Vincent Price, his eyebrows was singed from the fires. I mean, like, he was dangerously close in this thing, and he barely escaped. And the director just runs right in there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you got to have better safety measures than that, but you also got to admire the director who's trying to get the shots at the same time. So, it's like when they're shooting Death Proof, and Quentin Tarantino, he's in the truck filming, flying down the highway, doing, 80 miles per hour or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's dangerous, and you gotta make sure, everyone is protected, and, you're trying to do things as safely as possible, but you gotta give kudos to Mr. Tarantino for actually getting in there with him, like, he's willing to, we're on crash, we're all crashing together, and, I don't know, part of me admires that, so, apparently Vincent Price tells a story about, so Vincent Price was a guy who always liked to visit his own screen. Like, he'd always go to his movies in public and watch them. But he'd always go in disguise. Like, he didn't want to get mobbed or anything there. But apparently this is one of those movies where he did let his presence be known, because he said he was sitting behind this teenage couple and they're watching the movie, and I guess during one point he, takes off his sunglasses and hat or whatever and just leans forward and is like, how you guys enjoying the movie? And I guess scared the shit out of him. So I'm like, that's fucking awesome. Vincent Price is the man. Apparently his makeup effects were so gross and disgusting and realistic that he was banned from the studio lunchroom or whatever during the filming of this movie, like while he was in the makeup. Like, they're just like, yeah, you can't come in here. You look disgusting. You're making everyone sick. And so, yeah, he was actually banned from the lunchroom during this movie, which is crazy. Movie came in under budget. great. You always like to hear that. That's always a good thing. Apparently, they're going to do a TV pilot based on the House of Wax later on. And apparently, though, it was rejected because it was too intense for television. However, they would pad it out and add some extra scenes, and it would be turned into the film Chamber of Horrors. So, I haven't seen that, but I'm sure we'll cover it on the show at some point. So, looking forward to that. This also features a young Charles Bronson in a non-speaking role. So, there's that. This was, at this point in time, Warner Brothers' biggest success financially. So, it's got that going for it. And finally, this movie was actually rated X in the UK. And yes, that kind of X, the bad X, you know. Don't want the public to see this thing. Apparently, they used to use the H rating, which we covered on this show because that's where horror got its name. The genre of horror got its name because they used to rate it H for horrific material or whatever. However, I guess it was discontinued. But at some point, they just started, I guess, to kind of differentiate X for sex and, you know, H for horror. They started bringing the H back for certain movies to be like, okay, so you're not watching a porno, you know, which that's something they did kind of here in America as well in the 70s, because some movies would be rated X, but it wasn't even like a porn movie. It was just, you know, something that would basically be an NC-17 by today's standards or whatever. But yeah, there you have it. So what I think about this movie, you know, I really liked it. I thought it was really good. My biggest thing was like, was there really a need for a remake? Probably not. This was literally almost beat for beat the exact same thing as Mystery of the Wax Museum. But with that said, I think the two things that's going to put this over top is, one, obviously it's newer, so the budget's bigger. It looks nicer. The coloring is better, so, you know. Because I know the last Wax Museum movie, it was like 2-strip Technicolor, if I'm correct. You know, it's one of those early, you know, color type things. And so this one definitely looks better. But I think the primary reason this is going to be the best version of Wax or House of Wax is Vincent Price. I mean, his performance is fucking phenomenal. Like, he's just incredible. And yeah, like, he outshines everybody in this movie. So it's like, yeah, I gotta give, you know, major props to Vincent Price here. The rest of the movies, like I said, it's okay. And again, I mean, I'm not trying to shit on Caroline, but yeah, her performance got on my nerves in this movie. Wasn't a big fan. But anyways, like I said, this movie's really good. Vincent Price is incredible. So yeah, overall, thumbs up. This has a 7 on IMDb, a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it said 23.4 box office, but I gotta assume, I heard this thing got re-released a couple times, and I'm guessing that's a total, because if the Beast of 1,000 Fathoms, you know, only made $5 million, I can't imagine this was hitting 23.4 that year. So I'm betting, you know, my life that it's all of it put together. But either way, that's our number one horror film from 1953. So let's do a recap. The Horror Hall of Fame. Inductees this year was Humphrey Bogart, Bob Hope, Basil Rathbone, the Ritz Brothers, and Todd Slaughter. Our number 5 movie of the year was The Neanderthal Man. Number 4, The Maze. Number 3, and winner of the Bronze Skull Award, Ghost of Saga Mansion. Number 2, and winner of the Silver Skull Award, was The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And our number 1 horror film in 1953, and the winner of the Golden Skull Award, is House of Wax. So, on behalf of everybody here at the Retro Horror Academy, my name's Daniel Richardson, and yeah, you are dismissed.